After Columbus reached the Americas, European conquest wasn't driven by gunpowder alone. Ammunition was scarce. Victory often came down to hand-to-hand combat, and there, Spain and Portugal held a decisive edge. Superior steel and masterfully designed swords. In this video, we'll explore the most popular conquistador sword types, why Spanish and Portuguese blades outclassed indigenous weapons, the swords wielded by famous conquistadors like Cortés and Pizarro, the secret behind legendary Toledo steel. Popular conquistador sword types. Rapier, or Espada Ropera. The rapier was the status symbol and battlefield favorite of 16th to 17th century conquistadors. Slender, agile, and often beautifully decorated, it excelled at both thrusting and cutting. Its narrow, flexible blade could penetrate the armor and shields used by indigenous fighters with deadly precision. One-handed with ornate hilts and pommels, often worn as part of an officer's uniform, a sign of rank and wealth, and a brutally effective weapon. Fun fact, the Three Musketeers famously carried rapiers forged in Toledo, Spain. Why it mattered? Rapiers allowed fast, precise attacks in close quarters, ideal for officers leading charges and duels in tight urban battles like those in Tenochtitlan. Falchion, a slashing specialist. The falchion features a curved, single-edged blade that widens toward the tip, perfect for chopping power and quick cuts. Blade length roughly 28 to 35 inches. Simple crossguard, one-handed grip, rounded pommel. Loved by cavalry for aggressive slashing from horseback and by infantry in tight melees. Design influences? Moorish curved blades, a legacy of centuries of Islamic presence on the Iberian Peninsula. Did you know? Spain expelled the Moors in 1492, the same year Columbus sailed west. That long contact with Islamic arms left a permanent mark on Iberian sword design. Longsword, Espada Bastarda, or hand and a half. The Spanish Espada Bastarda was a battlefield workhorse. Straight, double-edged, with a tapered point, and long enough to use one or two hands. Blade length, about 40 to 48 inches. Versatile, excellent for both cutting and thrusting. The hand-and-a-half grip offered reach, leverage, and power. Why it mattered? Its reach and penetration could defeat wooden and leather armors, common in the Americas, giving Spanish infantry a decisive edge in formation fighting. Arming sword, Espada de Armas. Simple, balanced, and reliable. The standard medieval one-handed sword endured into the age of conquest. Blade length about 28 to 34 inches. Straight, double-edged, with a cruciform guard. Easy to control for quick cuts and thrusts. Why it mattered? Many Iberian soldiers were already expert with this weapon from wars in Spain, making it a natural choice in the New World. Greatsword, Montante, the showstopper. The Spanish Montante was a two-handed giant used to break lines, control space, and terrorize opponents unfamiliar with such reach and power. Blade length around 60 inches, weight roughly 6 pounds. Used to deliver crushing blows and to keep multiple opponents at bay. Why it mattered? Indigenous armies had no established tactics against such long-reaching blades. The psychological and tactical shock could be devastating. Portuguese swords in the conquest of Brazil. Portugal's arrival in Brazil began with Pedro Álvares Cabral's fleet on April 22, 1500. Whether driven there by winds or intent, it marked the start of colonization, and with it, the spread of Portuguese arms and tactics. Key Portuguese blades and tools? Pear Sword, or Espada Colhona, or crab sword, a 1.5-handed sword notable for guard ends shaped like pear or testicle knobs, an old nickname from Portuguese. Often blackened to reduce glare and rust, useful for naval boarding and shipboard melees. Terçado, a short infantry sword, fast, practical, and well-suited to brush, skirmishes, and ambushes, likely related to the later Brazilian Sorocabana knife. Arming sword. Common across Europe, 70 to 86 centimeter blades for both cuts and thrusts. Falchion, curved single-edged chopper, excellent for powerful cuts in tight spaces like ship decks or dense terrain. Greatsword, around 1.2 meters long, less ideal in confined spaces, but devastating in open ground or to defend narrow passes. Daggers and machetes, lightweight, practical, and essential in forests, perfect for close combat, clearing vegetation, and sudden strikes. Portuguese and Spanish arsenals overlapped considerably, but naval warfare and Atlantic expeditions gave the Portuguese a special emphasis on shipboard-ready blades.
Swords of famous conquistadors. Hernán Cortés. The Royal Armory in Madrid claims to house Cortés's rapier, possibly forged not in Toledo, but in Solingen, Germany, identified by a famed wolf maker's mark. Even if surprising for a Spanish commander, it underscores the truth. Elite European blades, wherever forged, were coveted for reliability and performance. Why it mattered. In the siege warfare and street fighting of Tenochtitlan, a fast-thrusting sword in the hands of a skilled leader was decisive. Enjoying the deep dive? Hit subscribe now so you don't miss our next episode on weapons that changed history. Francisco Pizarro. Pizarro, conqueror of the Inca, also favored the rapier. His elegant blade in Madrid's Royal Armory represents a high point in European metallurgy and design. Legend says he used the same sword in his final stand against rival conquistadors, fighting until his throat was crushed. Centuries later, Sir John Downey reportedly borrowed Pizarro's sword during the Peninsular War against Napoleon, proof that great steel has a very long life. Why Spanish steel was superior? The secret of Toledo. If there's one word behind Iberia's cutting edge, it's Toledo. An ancient center of metalworking since the Bronze Age, supplier of elite blades to empires from Rome onward. Through the Middle Ages, Toledo's process produced blades that others couldn't match. Imitations were either too soft or too brittle. What made Toledo steel special? Master artisanship passed down for generations, unique tempering techniques tied to the waters of the Tagus River, and a construction sometimes described as having a soul of iron, a wrought iron core inside a steel shell, balancing flexibility and strength. Cultural impact. Under Islamic rule, Toledo steel forged fine scimitars. After the Reconquista, it reached new heights in rapiers. When samples reached Japan, smiths were astonished. Some even sent for Iberian forged blades for katana and wakizaki, a testament to Toledo's reputation. Bottom line, superior materials, superior heat treatment, and superior craftsmanship. This triad gave Spain and Portugal a lethal advantage in close combat. Why these swords dominated the New World? Reach and control. Rapiers and Montantes controlled distance and dictated engagements. Penetration. Thrust-optimized points and hardened edges defeated many indigenous armors. Versatility. Arming swords and hand-and-a-half longswords switched seamlessly between cut and thrust. Cavalry power. Falchions delivered devastating slashes from horseback. Training and tactics. Iberian soldiers were drilled in European fencing and formation fighting, turning good steel into decisive victories. Conclusion. While gunpowder drew headlines, steel won many of the fights that decided empires. Spanish and Portuguese swords, especially the rapier, falchion, longsword, arming sword, and the towering Montante, thrived because they combined superb metallurgy with disciplined technique. And at the core of it all stood Toledo steel, the quiet superpower of the conquest. If you found this breakdown fascinating, make sure to subscribe. More weapon deep dives are coming your way. Question for you. Which sword did we miss that you wish we had covered? And which of today's blades was your favorite? Let me know in the comments.